Okay, Team Impact. I'm going to shoot a video here. We're going to do this live, but this is just for the folks that were absent or couldn't make the meeting or forgot to check in or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead down through student handout 3, and there's a front and there's a back, and this is in the packet. And so follow along as we go. Okay? All right. A fraction is a way to represent division. This can be used to convert a fraction to a decimal by dividing the numerator, the top number, by the denominator, and I'm just going to abbreviate those. So numerator, denominator can be written this way, it can be written this way, or, it can be written that way. Dividend, divisor, quotient. Again, 3 divided by 4 is written 3 divided by 4. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on here, and then we're going to do some converting, and we should know how to do this with our calculator. And when I look at this, I'm just going to review it one time with the calculator because most of you should be okay. And let me turn my light on there so you can see. But anyway, we know 1/2 is 5/10, but just to review, I'm going to turn my calculator on and clear it. And I'm going to enter 1 and over D2, go to the right. Now, if I want to change a fraction to a decimal, all right, I hit second n over d, and boom, we get 5/10. So that equals 5/10, and I like to circle it. Now we're going to get into some of these fractions where you should know what they mean. Okay, 9/10. Well, 9 over 10 is 9/10. 2/3, remember, is one of those repeating decimals. It's rependent, so we have to write it in bar notation. And to do that, I'm going to write it as 6/10 repeating. Remember, 1/3 is 3/10 repeating. Those are very common fractions and decimals. It's one of the most common repeating decimals we have. And then finally, 7/4. So 7/4 is an improper fraction. So that means I'm going to have a whole number. Instead of 0 in front of the decimal, I'm going to have a whole number. And let's see what that goes to. 7 n over d4 to the right. Second n over d, and there it is. So that goes to 1 and 75 hundredths, right? So we have 1 and 75 hundredths. Let me circle that one as well. Okay, so we're going to continue down with the rest of this and basically just getting some basic fundamentals in here. And they're important, so they are. Okay. All right, so we're just going to write this, 3 different ways, okay, and then just go ahead and put a verbal description down. So we have 3/5. This means 3 divided by 5. First number's inside, second number's outside. And we would say 3, right, divided by 5, right? So we have 5 divided by 4. If we work backwards, 5 is the numerator and 4 is the denominator, right? So then we go from 5/4. So this is 5 divided by 4. So it's 5 divided by 4. These are all equal or congruent. So we'll write this down as 5 divided by 4. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go and start with the division problem setup. And this is read 1 divided by 3. So it's 1 divided by 3. And that is 1 over 3 or 1/3, right? So it's 1 divided by 3. Okay. All right, and the last one, they give us the verbal description, and we're going to kind of work backwards. So 3 divided by 2. 3 divided by 2. Okay. 3 divided by 2. And then this is certainly an improper fraction, 3 over 2 or 3 seconds, right? And when it's an improper, again, we're going to have we could change that to a mixed number as well. All right. Fractions can be placed on a blank or converted to a decimal to help order them. So they can be placed on a number line. And again, I'm going to abbreviate because I write a little bit bigger than what it is. But we can see that down there. It's the number lines down here. Place the following fractions on the number line. Okay, so we're in good shape here. Let's just start with 2/5. Well, here's 0, and these are all negative numbers. And let me make sure that you can see that down there. Yeah, you can. All right, so we're going to start with 2/5. Well, 2/5 is greater than 0, all right, but it's less than 1. And actually, 2/5 is less than a half. So I'm going to put this dot right here, okay, and I'm going to label that with a letter A. And I'm just going to cross that off to let myself know I did that. All right, letter B is -3 1/4. Well, here's the 0, here's -3, and here's 4. So we're -3 1/4. So -3 1/4 is going to be a little bit less than -3 1/2. So we're going to place that right in the middle, because if we split this into fourths, all right, that's where it would fall. And we're going to put a B and cross that off. Letter C is 2 1/10. So I go up to 2. And if I was to split this into 10 equal sections, I would find out that 2 1/10, all right, is right here, right next to 2. That's letter C, and I'm going to put that there. Letter D is 2 3/5. 2 3/5. So we're going to be between 2 and 3. And if I cut this into 5 equal sections, right, I'm going to be a little bit bigger on this than a half. So I'm just going to go right about here and put a letter D. Cross that off. And finally, we're in letter E, -2 3/4. So we're going to go back to -2. Here's -2 1/2. And between those two, 2 1/2 and -3 is -2 3/4. And we're going to put a letter E and cross that off. So that's just a good start on ordering some rational numbers. Remember, a rational number is any number that can be put in fraction form. Okay. All right, let me flip this over. All right, and let's continue down with what we have going on here. Let me make sure that you can see this nicely. And so we are in good shape here. Okay. Let's continue. Fractions can be compared using like denominators. denominators, denominators. Okay, so they can be compared using like denominators. So you're going to find the least common, all right, denominator, and I'm going to abbreviate denominator. We're going to rename the fraction, and then we're going to order the fractions. All right, and then you always write the original piece. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. They want you to use common denominators. I like to use decimals because decimals to me is a little bit easier to do, but I'll do the first one with a common denominator. All right, and then we'll kind of work from there. Okay, so my least common multiple, all right, of 12, 3, 6, and 4, all of these numbers will go into 12. So I'm going to write all of these fractions with a denominator of 12. And I'm going to make sure I circle this greatest to least here, okay? So we have 11 12s. I'm just going to draw a line. All right, next up, I'm going to change this to a denominator of 12 times 4 times 4. 6 times 2 times 2. 12 times 3 times 3. Okay, so when you look at all of this, now we have like denominators, we've renamed the fractions, and now I'm going to write them in the original form from biggest to smallest. Well, the biggest fraction here is certainly 11 12ths, so I'm just going to write this down here like so. Put a comma there. The next biggest fraction is 10 12ths, which originally was 5 6ths. And then after the 10 12ths was what? 8 12ths, which was 2/3. And then finally 1/4. And we can circle that and we'd be in good shape. Okay, so that's certainly one way to do it. And that works nicely when the denominator, when they fit together nicely. And these are going to fit together nicely as well So I'm going to stick to this technique, and when we get to a different one, or maybe in the class, I'll show you a different technique here. But this 5, 4, 20, these are a multiple of all of these numbers is 20. So I'm going to rewrite all of these with a denominator of 20. Okay, so I'm going to come down here, 3, all right, and put 20 there, times 4, times 4. 23 again, times 5, times 5. That's already with a denominator of 20, so I just rewrite it. And then this one, 5 times 4 is 20, and 17 times 4, and I'm just going to grab my calculator to help me out. 17 times 4 is 68. Is 68. But here's the thing. I've got an orange here with 3 apples. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to a mixed number so I can see, what my whole number is, okay? Because that kind of confuses me. So watch how I do this. I'm going to put 68 over 20 in my calculator, and then I'm just going to switch it. I'm going to hit second and over D, and it comes up with 3 4/10, right? I'm going to do that again, second and over D, and it comes up with a down arrow as a mixed number, and I'm going to simplify that, and we're going to end up with 3 2/5. So underneath that, I'm going to write 3 2/5. The problem is I've got to take it back up to a denominator of 20. So here we go. 3 times 4 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8. So we had to do a little bit of work there to get that figured out. But anyway, we're looking to compare these. So the first thing I look at when I'm comparing these is the whole numbers, and they're all the same, 3, 3, 3, 3. Remember, this is 68 over 20. So now I have to look at the numerators, right? And when I look at the numerators, I find out that 8 is the biggest, and I want to write the original one, so it's 17/5. And I'm going to draw a line to separate them, okay? So this one's kind of done, isn't it? So the next one is 4, 5, oh, right there it is, 3 1/4. So 3 1/4 is next. And again, we're writing the original values. So now I have 3 1/4, 4, so it's 3 1/5 would be next. And then finally 3 3/20, and we circle that. Okay, so that's a simple way to order from greatest to least, and make sure you always circle that in organizing your mixed numbers, your fractions, or decimals. And when we start to mix them up, it becomes even more fun. All right, let's jump on to number 8 here. Use your understanding of rational numbers, of ordering rational numbers, to answer the questions. Order the following rational numbers from least to greatest and use the number line to help you. Okay. Well, look at this mess. I've got a percent, I've got a decimal, a fraction, a decimal, and another fraction. So what I'm going to do is just kind of change them all to decimals. To me, that's a lot easier to do, and I want to make sure we're in good shape here with this. You guys can still see that, so we're in pretty good shape here. So anyway, what I'm going to do is, change this to a decimal. Well, I know 61, that's 6100ths. We move it to the left. This is 6800ths. If you remember, we changed this earlier to a decimal, 2/3 on the other side. That was 6/10 repeating. And then finally 3/5. 3/5, well, I know that 3/5 is just 6/10, but let's prove that just to make sure. So if I enter 3 over 5, and then I want to change it to a decimal. All right, and there it is, 6/10. So make sure that you have a bar over the 2/3, and this is just 6/10. So now we want these least to greatest, and really all we're doing is just going to order them on the number line, right? All right, when we look at this. So the least one, the smallest one is 0.6, 0.6, here's a 0.5. So that's going to be the smallest one, right? And 5700ths would be first. Now, the next one we're looking for is the next smallest. So 0.61, 61, this is 6666 forever, remember? And here it is. The next one is 3/5. So I'm going to write the original value down, right? Cross that off. Now, we go to the next one. 6100ths. 6100ths is just a tad bigger than that, and I'm going to write the original value of 61%. Cross that off. And then we have 68 hundredths or 66666 forever. Well, clearly, all right, this is a little bit smaller than that. So we're going to put down 2/3 and then finally 68 hundredths. Okay, so those are least to greatest. And the number line really doesn't help us unless we split it up into more intervals. And it's just easier to deal with the decimals, isn't it? All right, so let's continue on here, on to number 9. Same thing, we're going to order our rational numbers. And the question, order the following rational numbers from least to greatest and use the number line to help. Okay, all right, no problem. So this is a decimal. This is a percent. Remember, a percent to a decimal, we move that 2 to the left. So that actually equals 14 thousandths. Okay, 4 is a whole number. So clearly that's going to be the biggest. And 5/4, well, I'm kind of unsure here. So let me turn this on and I put 5/4 and I want to change that to a decimal. And I get 1 25 hundredths. So I'm just going to put that right there. Okay, again, I'm going to look at this again, least to greatest. So I'm looking for the smallest one up here. And clearly we see that 14 thousandths is the smallest, but I want to write the original value of 1 4/10%. So let's get rid of that. Now, what would be next? Okay, draw a line there. 1 4/10, 1 25 hundredths, 1.4, 1.2. There it is. I don't want to write that. I want to write the original value. Sorry about that. So we're going to write 5/4. And then clearly, all right, 1 4/10 or 40 hundredths. And then finally, the number 4. The number 4. Okay. All right, we're continuing on. So again, least to greatest, we're going to continue with these last couple problems here. And again, this was for the folks that were absent. But anyway, Sabrina is measuring different lengths of ribbon for a craft at the art camp. Which list shows the ribbons ordered from greatest, biggest, to least or smallest? Okay. So these are pretty compatible. So, because I know 8 goes into 16, these are all multiples of 16. So I'm going to rewrite these, all right, with a denominator of 16, okay? Because, we can compare them using decimals, as I did here, or we can compare them using fractions, as I did here. So I'm just kind of showing you a couple different ways to do it. So I'm going to rewrite this with all the denominator of 16. So we have 9/16 times 2. Times 2 is 10/16. Okay, times 4. Times 4 is 12/16. And then this is times 8, isn't it? Times 8. So these are all in the same order of those. And what we're looking for is the biggest one, the biggest to smallest. So if they're all the same denominator, I look at the numerators and right there's the biggest one. So 5/8 is the biggest, isn't it? Okay. So we want it greatest to least here. All right. So 5/8. Did I make a mistake here? Times 2. Right, there's a mistake. Times 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. I made a boo-boo there. There we go. No, the 10/16 was there. The 3/4. Oh boy, Mike. Sorry about that, guys. I was looking back. So that's correct. That's correct. 3 times 4 times 4 is 12. I was right. So the 12/16, which is the 3/4, I apologize, is the biggest. So we have 3/4 here, 3/4 here in the front. We know those are dead. So the next one after the 3/4 would be the 5/8. Here's 5/8. That has 5/8 third. That's dead. So we're going to look at letter C. Okay. When it's this tight, it's hard to write. I like to write them up and down so that doesn't happen. All right. Last one. The table below shows the progress that the Harris children have made on their reading app, which shows the progress of the children from the most completed to the least, from the biggest to the smallest. Okay. So we just need to get these all to really decimals to me because I think that would be the easiest. 82%, I move the decimal, is 82 hundredths. For 17/20, I'm going to use my calculator. 17 n over d 20, go to the right. and just hit second and over D. We've got to learn that. So it's 85 hundredths, isn't it? And let me erase that. I wrote that a little high. Sorry about that. And then finally, 5/6. Well, 5/6 is a good decimal, so or a good fraction. We're going to change that to a decimal, and let's see what we get for 5/6. And it turns into being a repeating decimal, doesn't it? So it's called 83 hundredths with the 3 repeating. Let me put that up a little higher so you can see that. Okay, so now we're going to look at this, and let's see which one completed the least, biggest to smallest. 0.85, 0.82, 0.83 repeating. 17/20 Mason is first. So it has to be letter B because they have Marco and Marco there. So Mason, it's letter B. So I hope all that made sense. The homework's in the folder. So this again was for your convenience. I posted this, but anyway, have a good day, guys. We'll see you. Take care.